boy Chris. It's another live session on Financiation. This channel is all about helping you make money, helping you save money, helping you invest money, and building generational wealth and financially emancipating yourself from generational poverty. I am a mechanical engineer with an MBA, and I essentially enjoy teaching my people how to build generational wealth. So I've got a couple different questions, everybody, about a couple things that are kind of going on. In particular, Donald Trump's big, beautiful bill. And it's actually interesting because one of the questions that I kind of got about the big, beautiful bill was, Chris, what should we do? And there's another question that I got as well, where somebody was essentially asking me what I did to pretty much get to the point in corporate America where I was able to literally more than triple my income in less than 5 years. And I think it's kind of interesting because I think answering both of those questions is going to kind of give you a slight window into who I am, for one. And then two, more importantly, it's going to give you a better idea about what you should be doing now that Congress has essentially passed a bill which right now is the most unpopular bill in America. And full disclosure, everybody, I don't talk politics on my particular channel. If you want to know what I believe politically, it's quite simple. Log into my Patreon and go there. And from there, I get a little bit more honest about some of the things that I feel. Having said that, here at Financiation, earlier, I don't talk left versus right. I don't talk red versus blue. I talk specifically how to make you money, and more importantly, how to make you wealthy. So, in regards to that, people once again were asking me, Chris, what are your what the big beautiful bill? What's into it? What's going to happen? It cuts roughly $750 billion with a B to $1 trillion in Medicare and Medicaid. If you're not familiar with the fact, a third insurance, some form of Medicare through some form of Medicaid. People are asking me the same question, Chris. If I get my health care through Medicare and Medicaid, what am I going to do? People keep asking the same question. If I lose my health care, what should I do? It's interesting because same thing. I keep people asking me the same question. College students. Okay, now the Pell Grants and federal funding based off this bill are about to get literally cut by almost 40%. How am I going to pay for college? These are all definitely questions, everybody, that you should be asking yourself and you should be basically planning for. But what I would like you to focus on as well as this, everybody, there are certain things in life that you have literally no control over. You have the power to vote. And voting, whether you vote Democrat or Republican or Independent, still remains the greatest conduit in this country to affect change. So if you are not happy with the direction of this country, one of the things you can do is vote. But having said that, to some extent, there's only so much you can focus on about who's sitting in the White House. You have to focus on your house. And by doing that, everyone, you put yourself in a good position so no matter whether it's a Democrat or a Republican, whether it's Joe Biden, whether it's Donald Trump, whether it's whoever that's in the White House, you put yourself in the best possible situation for you to succeed. So it gets back to my point. People once again continue to ask the question. Now this bill is passed. Now it passed through reconciliation. Essentially, they got 51 Republican senators to pass it in the House, in the Senate, and they got the House to pass it. What should we do? And how is it going to affect me? So in order to answer that question, everyone, I first want you to kind of sit back, take a breath, and kind of evaluate what's going on. Not necessarily in the political world, what's going on in your world. So I'll give you an example. Right now, I am driving home from a very long, stressful day in my corporate career. As I stated earlier, I literally tripled my salary. Thank you, God. Thank you, Jesus. In about 5 to 6 years in corporate America. And people always ask me the same question. How in the world did you do that? Interesting. I didn't have a straight trajectory in order to doing that. There were situations in my life where I was told I was let go. In situations in my life where I didn't cuss out a boss. I told a boss to his face that you're going to pay me this salary. I'm going to take my talents elsewhere. The boss didn't pay me that salary, and I legitimately took my talents elsewhere. So I have not had a quote unquote straight path in regards to corporate America, in regards to engineering, in regards to construction, or in regards to finance. However, what I have had is this: I never once ever went to work for that company. And what do I mean by that? So, as a mechanical engineer, I never once ever walked into an engineering office and said, gee, I want to be an employee at ABC Engineering. That was never my idea. My idea was to be the absolute best possible engineer that I could be, and whatever company I worked for was a beneficiary of that. I wanted Christopher Phelps to be the absolute best mechanical engineer I could be, regardless of what role I was in and regardless of where I was working. Because in the event that I got fired, in the event that I got terminated, in the event that I cussed out a boss and was told basically I had to go somewhere else, I did not care because I took all of my talents and all of my skills literally to the competitor that was down the hall, or to the competitor that was across the street, or to some extent the competitor that was in another state. Because I never once again ever went to work with the idea, gee, I want to be a good employee here. No, I worked for that company and say, no, I want to be the best engineer here. It was the same way when I was in construction management, where I said I never had any desire whatsoever to to be, quote unquote, a good superintendent or a good MEP manager or a good whatever it was for whatever company I worked for. My entire focus was I wanted to become the best possible superintendent I could be when I was in construction. I wanted to become the best possible financial consultant when I started using my MBA. Sorry, guys, I can't really answer right now just because your boy is driving and I got to beat this crazy traffic that we have right now. But I never had any desire, essentially, everybody, to just simply go to a company and be the best possible worker for ABC Engineering or the best possible worker for ABC Construction. I specifically went there to become the best absolute superintendent or the best possible mechanical engineer that I could be for Christopher Phelps. And by me being the best possible mechanical engineer or the best possible superintendent for whatever company I was working for, whatever construction management company I was working for, whatever financial firm I was working for, whatever law firm I was working for, by doing that, it allowed me, whatever company I worked for, they were the beneficiary of my hard work and my intelligence. And by taking my talents from that company, when it didn't work out or I wasn't getting paid what I was worth, I gladly took my talents elsewhere. And by doing that, a phenomenal engineer, a phenomenal superintendent, a phenomenal forensic depositions expert, a phenomenal financial consultant, gladly took his talents elsewhere. And as a result, I thrived everywhere that I went. So how does that affect? So how does that positively or negatively affect what's going on with my life and the big beautiful bill? I'm glad you asked that question, everybody. You got to basically focus on what you can control. And you can't necessarily, to some extent, focus on what a Republican senator in Montana is doing, or what a senator in California, or a Democratic senator in California is doing. What you can focus on, though, is how can I be the best possible version of myself in the realm that I'm operating in. In my case, in the corporate America space, how can I be the best possible engineer possible for my firm? Because by doing that, I'm going to get so good at what I do. If you refuse to pay me what I'm worth, not a problem. I got 100 other companies that will literally hire me. I've seen that in my own personal life. That is essentially, everybody, how I tripled my income in less than 6 years in corporate. Another thing that I did as well, and this also goes back to the quote-unquote the big beautiful bill. Right now, that bill slashes a lot of funding to a lot of different agencies that a lot of people essentially rely on, such as Medicare, Medicaid, and financial aid and Pell Grants. So by making yourself the best possible version of yourself, everyone, you teach yourself the ability to A, be resilient, and B, to learn. And the beautiful thing about doing that is that by becoming the best possible version of yourself, in the event that you work in a career that does get terminated, that does get let go, that does have government funding stripped away, because you have become the best and most marketable version of yourself, you're going to be able to take your talents elsewhere. I'll give you an example. When I first moved to Miami, right, when I would go to the club and stuff like that, there were literally dozens and dozens of taxi cars that was parked essentially on Collins Avenue, right outside South Beach. So essentially, you would go to Mango's, you would go to the club, you do that kind of stuff. You go to the house, you go to these different clubs, and literally as soon as you came stumbling out of the club or stumbling out of the bar, you basically came walking out of the bar sober, because I'm not the biggest drinker in the world, you would have a line of taxis that were lined up for you. This is about 12 years, right? So eventually, this thing called Uber popped up, and this thing called Lyft popped up. And so what ended up happening was, instead of the taxi drivers actually saying, wow, you know what, I can actually use this to make a lot more money than being a taxi driver, the city of Miami, and the same thing happened in Philly, basically fought tooth and nail, and the same thing happened in New York as well. They fought tooth and nail against Uber and against Lyft. And what ended up happening was the taxi drivers that got on board with Uber and Lyft, they quickly turned in their yellow cars, got a Lyft symbol, and got an Uber car, and they started driving Uber, and they started driving Lyft. And those taxi drivers did extremely well. But those who basically refused to get with the times, the ones that fought technology, they were the ones that eventually went bankrupt. And then, unfortunately, right now, a lot of them are basically sweeping floors at McDonald's or sweeping floors at Walmart. So what's the moral of the story? Right now, people are absolutely terrified of artificial intelligence. They are terrified of AI. They are terrified that their job is going to get taken, and that if somebody doesn't do something about AI, it's just going to take over the world. I personally have the Lyft model. At the end of the day, everybody, technology is undefeated. You can get pissed off at the automobile like the horse and carriage drivers did, or you can figure out how to work on the Model T. You can get pissed off at AI, or you can figure out how to use it to market your businesses and to use it to create websites and to use it to help you in corporate America. And I do that every day, literally. You can get pissed off essentially at the taxi driver, at Uber and Lyft, or you can learn how to drive if you're a taxi driver, or you can learn how to drive Uber and Lyft, use for Uber Eats, which my wife and I actually do, in regards to just bringing extra income to the family. So so to go back to my big beautiful bill thing, if there is something in that bill that you know for a fact is going to negatively affect your lifestyle, let's say you are an aerospace engineer that works at the NASA Goddard facility in Maryland, right? And they're about to spend, and Donald Trump spent $100 million to transfer out of spite the NASA Goddard facility from Maryland to Texas. Well, guess what? If you have roughly 10 to 15 years of experience as an aerospace engineer, you are going to make a lot more money on the private sector than you will in the public. It's for work for the federal government. So as a result of that, look at it to some extent as a possible pay raise. Okay, cool. You don't want to work for okay, cool. You don't want to work for a private industry. You don't want to work for Blue Rise. You don't want to work for Blue Origin, anything like that. You are an aerospace engineer. You are a mechanical engineer. You are an accountant, essentially, who's worked for the federal government for decades. Do you realize what your earning potential possibly could be if you decide a NASA facility like the one in Houston, or like the one in Florida, or like the one in California? Basically, people, I'm using NASA and I'm using these kinds of things as an example. But my point, everybody, is very clear. You got to be able to roll with the proverbial political punches. And the people who realize how to do that, they're the ones that stay employed. They're the ones that become project executives. They're the ones that become entrepreneurs and start their own business. The ones, however, that, oh, woe is me, the world is not fair, everybody's woke now, oh, the left is taking all my jobs, oh, the right is taking all my jobs, the individuals, everybody, those are the ones that get slaughtered. And if you are not resilient, that's what's going to essentially happen to you. Another thing I want to bring up as well, and this kind of gets back to what I was doing today. So, for instance, on my job site today, where I was actually working, we had a situation where a person said, this is not in my contract to do this work. I disagreed vehemently with them because at the end of the day, it absolutely was in their contract to do. But instead of getting into a pissing match and getting everybody involved, I said, okay, cool. How long is it going to take me to fire this individual and to fire this company and bring in another company to essentially do this work? How much money am I going to have to spend to basically pay somebody to do this because this moron refuses to do their job? How much time is it going to take me? How much money is it going to take me to do this kind of stuff? So after thinking for this about 5 seconds, I realized, you know what? It's actually faster and more efficient if I do it myself. So I proverbially did manual labor in 100-degree heat to essentially take care of this idea. And if I could bring this to a corporate America setting, everybody, by doing this literally sped up the $700 million project I'm currently working on. It sped it up by over 2 weeks, just by me essentially doing the work myself. Now, the analogy I'm going to use is this. If you don't, quote-unquote, work in an environment where you're doing this kind of work, the same analogy applies. Sometimes, everybody, it is literally in your best interest to, instead of yelling at somebody, screaming at them, firing them, cussing them out, essentially doing their job, temporarily, I might add, for a time being, just to make your deadline. And after you make that deadline, then you essentially figure out ways to replace it, which is essentially what kind of happens in some of the environments that I work in. And by doing that, everyone, it gives you the ability to master your craft. Because I can tell you this, by doing the work that I had to do today, that's not something that's typically in my job description to do. But by doing, I had to learn a completely new technology. I had to learn a completely new system. And after about 8 hours, I am more or less a subject matter expert in that particular trade. And what's also cool about it is that I gained essentially leadership capital with the individuals who I work with. So they said, wow, if Chris is literally the top dog in this particular position, he literally is the one running this project, and he's willing to get his hands dirty, he's willing to get into the mud, he's willing to get into the trenches and do this work, what is my excuse? That's the way, everybody, that you have to think about your life. And to the person that asked me that question earlier, Chris, what did you do essentially to be in the position that you were in corporate America? And like I said, I have not had a straight track. Seriously. I've had the same things happen to everybody else. You're working for ignorant, racist bosses. You're working for morons. You work for people that are lazy. You work for people who look like you, basically throw you under the bus. I've had the same issue happen to me that happens to all of you guys. But the difference is, as I said earlier, I never once ever went to work for a company. I went to work for myself and become the best possible engineer that I could, or the best possible superintendent that I could, or the best possible financial consultant that I could. And by doing that, that skill set transferred itself from one position to another, from one career to another. Till one day I looked at it, and once again, I realized I was running a $700 million job. Thank you, Jesus, for that, by the way. Big, beautiful bill. Back it up to that. How does that apply to you? Once again, become the best version of yourself and kind of see where the market is going and see what you need to do so that you can position yourself to dominate corporate, to dominate your business, to dominate being an entrepreneur, and to dominate different ways to get home so you don't have to fight this traffic every day. That's how, guys, how I want you to think. If you're pissed off about the Medicare and the Medicaid thing and you're pissed off about Social Security, yeah, I get it. You're losing your health care. I get it. But you know what? Brush up that resume. Get that PDP certification. Get that nursing degree. Get that associate's degree. Figure out a way to basically improve your value so you can go work for a company that does offer you better health care. Okay, you're pissed off that your job is getting outsourced. You're pissed off that the tariffs and everything are basically hurting your farm. They're hurting your construction company because you can't find anybody to work on your plant. All right, cool. What's your skill set? What's your mindset? What are you good at? How can you pivot to an industry that is being positively affected, quote unquote, by our political leaders? Okay, cool. You live in a state that is getting absolutely ramshackled right now because of deportations or because of, I don't know, cuts of federal funding. Or you live in a state that's being or you live and work in the industry like you're a farmer that's getting absolutely destroyed right now because of these tariffs and everything, and the tariff war that's going on. Cool. Take your skill set, take your mindset, and push it towards something that's going to allow you to be at a profit regardless in any industry. And I'm also going to say this. Right now, everybody, we are looking at, in my opinion, the largest transfer of wealth in American history. To some extent, I hope that I am wrong when I say this, but I am almost positive that there are going to be more people that move into the upper middle class because of the things that are going on right now than almost any time in American history. Why? Because there are certain individuals that have positioned themselves in a position to make insane amounts of money right now. And what do I mean by that? I'm glad that you asked. Let's say right now you have a fully stocked emergency fund. Let's say you have 6 months, you have 6 to 12 months, basically of your basic living expenses saved up. And let's say you live in a neighborhood that has a population that, for lack of a better word, won't be there much longer. I'll say it that way, right? And let's say a lot of these homes get foreclosed on because people end up moving out of the state to chase work in other places. As a result of that, let's say real estate becomes extremely inexpensive in the area that you live in. And as a result of that, it opens the possibility for you to become a real estate investor. I know a young woman that basically became a millionaire in 2008 because of that, because she lived in an area where a lot of people lost their homes, and she was basically was able to buy her first and her second rental property for pennies on the dollar. All right, cool. So let's say you're a college student right now, and you're pissed off because your funding for your Pell Grants and everything got cut, and things of that nature. And as a result, you have to pivot your idea. Okay, what do I actually want to study? What's a career that I can get into that I see a lot of people are either A, not going into, or B, no one wants to do it? Well, I can tell you right now, everybody, being a mechanical engineer, nobody in America is studying engineering. And the reason why I say that is because literally I get a job offer every day to work for a different company. And if you get a degree in science, in technology, in engineering, in mathematics, in healthcare, in law, or in finance, there are so few Americans that go into those careers right now that when you come out of college, you're looking at 6 figures, and on top of looking at 6 figures, there is very, very little competition because some of these positions have to be from U.S. citizens. And if you can't get a security clearance, you can't do the job. I'm giving you guys game. Or how about this? Let's say you want to go the blue-collar route. Right now, so few Americans want to be electricians, plumbers, and carpenters, and because of a lot of things that are kind of going in regards to ICE, literally construction companies, particularly the smaller and medium-sized ones, are going belly up because they flat out cannot find people who are willing to do that kind of work. I was very upfront about it. Earlier today, I was doing manual labor for about 8 hours in extremely hot 100-plus degree heat. Why? Because the company who should have been doing it was incompetent, and the other company that I could have brought on board, they basically could not man the job. So as a result, me and a coworker ended up doing this kind of stuff. And the reason why I'm bringing it up, everybody, is this: you got to be able to pivot to the industries that are basically hiring you and your skill set. And if nobody is hiring you and your skill set in this basic big, beautiful bill economy that we live in right now, then guess I have great news for you. You can always pivot to something else. Another thing I want to say is this, to the individuals asking that question about, okay, Chris, what did you do in corporate America to get to the salary that you got, the one thing to triple your salary? And another thing I want to say is this as well, guys. Figure out where your industry is headed. Figure out what the designer credentials are. Figure out essentially what the C-suite static executives, what credentials the C-suite static executives are getting, what credentials your project executives are getting, and get those credentials. So, for instance, I'm in the engineering space. So in the engineering world, there are 3 certifications that you can get, or 3 degrees rather, that you can get that literally put you at the top of the food chain once you get your experience up and you basically have the backlog and you have the knowledge to prove that you know what you're doing. 1, the PDP certification. If you are an engineer, an accountant, a project manager, or anything a nurse, anything in the world where you have to essentially manage other human beings, getting a PDP certification is arguably The best certification you can get right now, because it proves that you essentially can manage teams of human beings, and you are very effective and you can be very profitable doing that. Secondly, get an MBA. Now, the MBA is not as prestigious as it used to be, but if you take a look at most C-suite static executives in any corporation, in any company, in any Fortune 500 company, any Fortune 100 company, the one caveat you see them, whether they're engineers, whether they're lawyers, whether they're doctors, whether they're teachers, whether they're principals, is that there's always a few of them that have an MBA. Particularly if you get an MBA in finance, because when I got my MBA, it literally opened up my eyes about how much money I was leaving on the table by not understanding how investments work. So that's the second one. And also, if you are an engineer, I would also highly advise you get your professional engineering license, because at that point, you are literally a walking business entity. And every year, America produces about 10,000 less engineers than they need. And because of the big beautiful bill, we're not bringing in K-1 visa guys from like Africa, India, or Asia anymore. So as a result of that, more engineering jobs open up that nobody in America wants to physically do. Also, everybody, please support your podcast and your YouTubers. Everybody, as we go live, please hit that. Please hit the super chat. Please subscribe to the channel as well. I drop weekly content every Sunday at 9:30 a.m. But please support your podcasters, everybody. Please support us and give us some money, okay? Because it's always appreciated. Always appreciated. I'm gonna keep it going, okay? So in regards to just the big beautiful bill, everyone. Once again, focus on the things that you can focus on. Yeah, the Medicare, the Medicaid cuts, I get it. If you're on Medicare, Medicaid, I understand it. The Social Security changes, I get it. If you are a type individual that relies off of tips and you make less than $25,000 and you get that $1,700 tax credit, that's cool. That's well. It's all well and good, and I'm happy for you. I will say this: if you get $1,700 tax rebate and you have lost your health care, your Medicare, and your Medicaid, I don't necessarily know how good that's going to be for you in the long term, but at the end of the day, congratulations, you get that $1,700 that Donald Trump promised. Big beautiful bill. Focus once again, everybody, on the things that you could control. Focus on the things, everybody, that allow you to essentially build your family's generational wealth. You can't, to some extent, affect or change the people's hearts. You can't necessarily affect. You can vote, obviously, but you can't necessarily affect, once again, what that senator in a different state that has a different political affiliation. You can't necessarily change how they vote, but you can, once again, change your mindset and change what you're going to do about it. And by doing that, you're going to focus on the things that are actually inside your power. That's, everybody, what I want you to focus on. And in regards to corporate America, I'm going to get back on that horse again as well. In America, we have this tremendous gift called capitalism, right? And this tremendous gift called capitalism, a lot of us Americans, we kind of take it for granted because we don't come from a culture, to some extent, or a country where entrepreneurship is pushed nearly as much as it's pushed in third world and in countries a lot of immigrants come from. If you ever take a look at it, the percentage of Fortune 500 and Fortune 100 companies that are started by immigrants is literally staggering, to the point where it's literally not a coincidence that individuals that come from countries where entrepreneurship more so is pushed is king versus our country, where they typically tell you to go to college and work for someone else for 40 years, or learn a trade and work for someone else for 40 years. But in other countries, a lot of them, they say, no, cool, start a business, work that business as much as possible, and give that business to your kids. That's the mindset that I think a lot of Americans, I'm kind of hoping that we start to, at some point, start to adopt, okay? And I'm saying it to say this: if you, once again, have a good idea, and you're willing to work that good idea at night, on the weekends, when you get off work, where you leave corporate America, work that business for as many hours as you possibly can. I say from 6 to 9 when you work the 9 to 5, work that business from 6 to 10 or from 6 to 9. Your other 9 to 5, work that business for the time that you can. Start that business and basically become an expert at that business, and then ultimately try to run that business to the point where you can give it to your kids. And that's something else I'm going to tell you about what you should focus on, instead of focusing on this big, beautiful bill and all this kind of stuff that, in my opinion, is most likely only going to help the top 1% of Americans and billionaires. Whether it's going to help the middle class, time will tell, but I think, once again, we're looking at another 2008-style recession. I think in regards to so many things that are kind of going on, I'm kind of curious about how this thing is going to turn out. But regardless of how it's going to turn out, everyone, you got to focus on the things that you can control and the things that you can change. And to some extent, if you don't do that, you are literally going to go crazy. All right? Ask questions away. Fire questions. Fire them away. Fire them away. Hi, Fan Mendoza. Hey, what's up? What's up? Definitely support your YouTubers. Sandra Horn, hi, weirdo, huh? Okay, well, all right, got you. Everybody has their opinions. Everybody has their opinions. I don't care. But definitely, everybody, fire the questions away. Fire the questions away. I had a very long, challenging day in the office. It's nice to be almost back at the crib, and definitely enjoy this heat. So yeah, absolutely. But fire the questions away. I thoroughly enjoy how to answer you guys' questions. As I say on Financial Space, I teach you how to make money, how to save money, how to invest money, how to build generational wealth. Okay. Yep. Fire away. Fire away. Career choices, opportunities, things of that nature. I always tell people go into a career path that people, quote unquote, are running from, that no one wants to do, but that's very lucrative. And I always say that because at the end of the day, there's certain career paths that you are almost guaranteed to always be gainfully employed. And more importantly, you're very much guaranteed that when you decide to start a business with the skills that you learn, you're highly employable, and your business is going to help people with their basic needs. So in order to start a successful business, everybody, you have to do two things. One, you have to become an expert at what you're trying to do, and two, you have to find a need and solve that need. So by doing that, voila, you are good to go. And this is going to help you essentially, regardless of what the economy is like, regardless of who's sitting in that White House, regardless of who's sitting with the left or the right, Democrat versus Republican, by focusing on the things that you can focus on and focusing on a career path that's going to allow you to provide for yourself and for your family, and starting a business off the skills that you get. This is essentially, everybody, how you can get yourself to the point where, yeah, a person may be sitting in the White House that you like or you don't like, but it doesn't matter because you have essentially self-insured yourself in any economy, in any presidency. Keep the questions coming, everybody. Keep the questions coming. Once again, it's Financipation. We drop weekly content. I thoroughly enjoy teaching you guys how to make money, how to save money, how to invest money. Another thing, too, everyone, about what's kind of going on right now. Because of the way the economy is set up, I'm seeing a lot of people say, Chris, should I invest in the stock market? Should I not invest in the stock market? And I'm going to tell you right now, if you listen to my podcast, you know I am absolutely 100% pro stock market. The stock market has created more millionaires in America over the last 50 years than any other institution combined, including real estate. For a very simple reason. If you invest a certain percentage of your money, every paycheck, into the stock market, particularly if it's into an exchange traded fund, a real estate investment trust, or a total stock market index fund that all track the total stock market, it puts you in a position to make money in just about any weather, any portfolio, any presidency. So as a result of that, everyone, if you are not invested in the stock market, you need to. And if you are not investing a certain percentage of your income into the stock market, you should. Even if you're only investing $50 every paycheck, even if you're only investing $25 a month, even if you're only investing $100 a month, even if you're only investing $10,000 a month, you need to be investing into the stock market because that is the simplest, the easiest, and the most efficient way to make your money. Literally within 2 mouse clicks, you can turn yourself from poverty to becoming a millionaire if you do it long enough and you invest into the right things. Ask questions away, everybody. Please ask questions away. Once again, it's your boy Chris. I thoroughly enjoy giving you guys an MBA level worth of financial and investing knowledge on this channel. I thoroughly enjoy essentially helping you with anything that you need your help with. Said hi, new emoji, appreciate it. Fan BDG, yep. Ball means everybody. Please do super chat. Please drop $1, drop $5, drop $10. Definitely support your content creators. Okay, support your content creators. And focus on the things that you can control, everybody. Focus on the things that you can control. Yep. All right. So with that, everybody, once again, I just want to kind of talk about in this particular live session, essentially what you need to do to essentially make money in any economy, to build generational wealth in any economy, what to do now this quote-unquote big, beautiful bill has made its way through Congress, this sign has become law. Try to get off of social media, try to get off Fox News, MSNBC, CNN. My personal advice is if you're going to watch any news station, watch BBC and Al Jazeera and international news stations, because I find they're a little bit more impartial, if you will. They also kind of give you a lot more actual news, it's actual facts. Focus on that kind of stuff, but don't consume too much don't consume too much Media, don't consume too much social media. Don't consume too much news, because if you do, you are literally going to go crazy with all the stuff that's going on in regards to alligator Alcatraz, in regards to tariffs, the tariff war, in regards to the deportations, in regards to people losing their farms, people losing their homes, people going homeless, civil unrest, all that stuff. My personal advice to everybody is focus once again on the stuff that you can control. Be informed, don't be misinformed, but realize that what can I control? Focus on that, okay? And if you do that, and you work hard and you work smart, you are positioning yourself to dominate any society, any era, any political administration, and also any country that you decide to live in. Because at the end of the day, you don't got to stay in America if you don't want to. There's an entire world out there of first world countries that would love to have your excellence and love to have your skill set. I'm actually going to drop more content about retiring abroad as well, because a lot of my friends are doing it that are 6 and 7 figure professionals here in America, particularly my minority friends. I think it's kind of time to start dropping some content exactly on how they did it, where they live, and kind of how they get treated when they're abroad. So, yeah. That, everybody. Anybody got any questions before I bounce? Questions, comments, concerns? Yep. Questions? All right. Help. Abdullah Sultan. What would you like help with, sir? What would you like help with, Abdullah? I'm all ears. Drop a question, everybody. Please let me know. I give you free financial coaching during my live session. So drop a session. Drop a question. I've done financial consulting for over 20 years. I've helped turn a lot of people's entire financial history around. I got myself personally out of a lot of debt on my journey to building wealth. And the ball means ask questions. Fire away. Support your content creators. All right. All right, everybody. It's your boy Chris. This channel, Financial Base, is all about making money. It's all about saving money. It's all about building generational wealth. And it's all about financially emancipating yourself from generational poverty, okay? Please, you can book a one-on-one session with me at any point. I am not giving you financial advice on this channel. You must make responsible decisions based on the thorough independent research that you do for yourself. I definitely have no issue providing you with different types of financial literacy courses, as well as different types of financial research about why I say the things that I say. And I thoroughly enjoy helping people become millionaires. I thoroughly enjoy helping people become the best versions of themselves, physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually, and all that kind of stuff. Okay. So it's your boy Chris. I'm out. If you guys got any questions, let me know. Please support your content creators, and I'm out. Peace. And check out my weekly content every Sunday morning at 9:30 a.m. All right. Take it easy. It's your boy Chris. I'm out. Peace. Thank you so much for this valuable information. I appreciate that. Preparing for eternity. Do you have any questions for me before I get out of the car and I leave? Any questions for me? As a guy, I get free financial content and free financial coaching during my live sessions. So if you got a question, fire away. Whether it's about your career, whether it's about, dating, whether it's about masculinity, whether it's about taking care of your body, and obviously most important, whether it's about finance and your career. I'm here to answer all questions. Yep. All right. With that, everybody, I'm out. Peace. It's your boy Chris. I'm out. Peace. No, I would just continue watching. Enjoy your day. I might ask about investing in the future. Yep. Please do. I go live at least once or twice a week. I drop financial content pretty much every day, to some extent, whether it's whether it's me dropping my financial content on the weekend, every Sunday at 9:30 a.m., or whether it's me. Honestly, you can book a one-on-one session with me at any point where I can walk you through college planning, HSA, sports 529s. I can walk you through essentially debt and credit repair. I can walk you through essentially how to plan for your children's college futures and things of that nature. I can also tell you different things about how to become an entrepreneur, how to start a business legally, LLCs, S corps, all that kind of stuff. I can walk you through all that stuff. I'll do it here, training for eternity. Love and blessings, love and blessings as well, bro. Take it easy. I'm out. Peace.